you, restless soul, whose fingers trace these words not as ink on a screen, but as hieroglyphs etched into the walls of your marrow. This is not a path. Paths imply distance, separation between wanderer and horizon. What unfolds here is an excavation of the mirage you've mistaken for a mirror, a dismantling of the machinery that whispers stranger when you dare to glimpse your reflection. You are not lost. You are camouflaged, a king disguised as a beggar, a galaxy folded into a thimble, a symphony mistaking itself for a single discordant note. The rituals that follow are scalpels to cut through the anesthesia of almost. I, mirror of midnight, the war of whispers at 3:47 a.m. When the veil between worlds thins, you will stand naked before the silver-backed glass. Not your skin nakedness, that triviality, but the raw exposure of psyche laid bare. Here the chorus begins, too fractured, too ordinary, a guest in the cathedral of your soul. These are not your thoughts. They are colonial echoes, parasites that feed on the myth of scarcity. Your task is not to argue, but to witness, to let each hiss not enough shatter against the obsidian of your gaze. Neuro-linguistic alchemy. The practice of confronting these whispers requires precision, a surgical dismantling of their grip over your consciousness. Begin with auditory engagement. Speak aloud. I see you, pretender. This act hijacks the amygdala's feedback loop, rewiring fear into sovereignty. Vowels vibrate the vagus nerve, creating a physiological shift that anchors you in presence, rather than panic. Each word becomes a blade, cutting through the fog of inherited doubt. Kinesthetic anchoring. Press your palms firmly against the mirror. Feel its cold surface as both boundary and bridge between projection and presence. The body must become an anchor here, grounding you in the physical while your awareness stretches beyond it. Imagine your reflection dissolving at the edges, blurring into something fluid, unbound by form. You are no longer looking at yourself. You are stepping into the threshold where self meets self. Visual dissolution. Stare until the reflection blurs into a Rorschach ink blot. Watch closely as familiar faces emerge from the chaos. The critic morphs into your grandmother's eyes, your third-grade teacher's frown, and even fragments of strangers whose judgments once lodged themselves in your psyche. Do not resist this unraveling. Instead, burn it all. Envision flames consume these apparitions, leaving only the emptiness behind. An emptiness that hums like a tuning fork, struck in silence. This silence is not an absence. It is fullness. It vibrates with potential, humming like the afterglow of a struck bell. In this stillness lies the throne room awaiting its monarch. But remember, kingship does not announce itself with fanfare. It arrives quietly, cloaked in the realization that the kingdom was never lost. It was simply forgotten. The anatomy of shadows. To truly master this ritual, one must understand the anatomy of shadows, the hidden architecture of doubt, shame, and unworthiness that scaffolds the ego's defenses. These whispers are not random intrusions. They are programmed responses shaped by years of societal conditioning, ancestral wounds, and personal failures. They serve a purpose: to keep you small, manageable, and predictable. To dismantle them is to declare war on everything that seeks to diminish. You begin cataloging these voices. Who speaks? Is it the voice of a parent demanding perfection, or perhaps a teacher who dismissed your dreams? Maybe it's the collective murmur of society telling you that success belongs to others, never to you. Write them down if you must, giving shape to what has long remained nebulous. Then ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped listening? Reclaiming sovereignty. As you strip away layers of illusion, you begin to glimpse the truth beneath. the radiant core that existed before the first whisper took root. This core is not fragile or contingent upon external validation. It is immutable, untouched by praise or criticism. To reconnect with it is to reclaim sovereignty, not over others, but over yourself. Imagine standing before the mirror again, this time seeing not a fragmented collection of doubts, but a singular unified being. This being is neither hero nor victim. It simply is. And in its existence lies infinite possibility. You may find tears streaming down your face during this revelation, not out of sadness, but because recognition feels like coming home. The silence that follows. When the final echo fades and the last shadow dissolves, what remains is not emptiness but essence. This is the hum of creation itself, the pulse of life moving through you, around you, as you. The throne room is now illuminated, though no lamp burns within it. You sit upon the throne not as conqueror, but as custodian, steward of the power that has always resided within you. Ask yourself, who am I without these stories? Let the question hang in the air, unanswered yet complete. For now, there is no need for definitions. There is only the certainty that whatever follows will be born, not of fear but of freedom. Team Coup, Desert Fast. The alchemy of absence, you will starve. Not your body, but the rabid dogs of distraction. The podcasts, the playlists, the dopamine scroll. For 14 hours you become a void walker. Notice how boredom metastasizes, first twitches, then a screaming need to do, to prove, to become. This is the nigredo, the blackening. Alchemists knew that putrefaction precedes gold. Multimodal crucible. The desert fast is not merely an act of deprivation. It is a deliberate dismantling of the mechanisms that keep you tethered to illusion. Begin with olfactory engagement. Burn myrrh. Its bitter smoke stings your nostrils, anchoring you when the mind screams for escape. Each inhalation becomes a reminder that discomfort is not the enemy. It is the forge where transformation occurs. Temporal awareness. Track time not in minutes, but in layers shed. Each heartbeat is a spade unearthing fossils of the self you buried to survive. As the hours into silence, you may find yourself haunted by memories, lovers who named your edges, bosses who mistook your fire for malfunction. These apparitions are not random. They are fragments of identity clinging desperately to form. Let them dissolve like mirages on the horizon. Existential inquiry. When rage erupts, why am I doing this? Answer simply, to meet the hunger that outlasts hunger. This hunger is not physical, it is existential. It is the yearning to know what remains when all else falls away. In the desert, you will hallucinate oases, promises of relief, distractions, masquerading as solutions. Resist them. What remains is the scorched earth truth. The kingdom isn't ahead. It pulses in the soles of your feet, here, now, raw, uncurated, unbearably alive. The anatomy of absence. Absence is not emptiness, it is fullness stripped bare. To starve distraction is to confront the void within, a space often mistaken for lack, but which is abundance waiting to be recognized. The alchemists called this stage solve et coagula. Dissolve the false, reclaim the true. Here, dissolution begins with sensory withdrawal. Without external stimuli clamoring for attention, the inner landscape emerges vivid and untamed. Reclaiming presence. As distractions fade, presence takes root. You begin to notice subtleties previously drowned out by noise, the rhythm of your breath, the weight of your thoughts, the texture of silence. This heightened awareness is not passive observation. It is active participation in the unfolding moment. Imagine yourself as both artist and canvas, shaping and being shaped simultaneously. Hallucinations of certainty. In the depths of the fast, certainty itself becomes suspect. Memories morph into myths, truths unravel into questions. This destabilization is intentional. Only by dismantling fixed beliefs can you glimpse the fluidity beneath. Ask yourself, what stories have I mistaken for reality? Write them down if necessary, then burn the list. Watch the ash scatter, releasing the grip of the narrative, the hunger that remains. By the end of the fast, you will encounter a hunger unlike any other, not for food, approval, or achievement, but for authenticity. This hunger is the threshold guardian, demanding clarity before granting passage. Feed it not with answers, but with questions. Questions like, who am I without these roles? What does it mean to be fully present? How does one hold space for paradox without resolution? Reintegration. When the fast concludes, resist the urge to immediately fill the void. Instead, carry its lessons forward. The silence you cultivated during the fast should ripple into daily life, informing how you engage with others, work, and even solitude. Remember, the desert is not a place you leave behind. It lives within you, ready to teach whenever you dare return. 3. Zen's skeleton key, the arrow that shatters the archer sit. Breathe. Now dissect the breath itself. Who inhales? Who counts the exhales? Chase the pronoun, I, like a detective hunting a ghost. The mind will retaliate. This is navel-gazing, pretentious, pointless. Smile. These protests are the death throes of a regime facing a coup. Linguistic jujitsu. The practice of questioning the self is not an intellectual exercise, it is a dismantling of identity. Begin with the recursive inquiry, who is aware? This simple question becomes a koan that unspools syntax, unraveling the illusion of subject and object. Each time you ask, the boundaries between I and everything else blur further. Subject dissolves into objects, and both collapse into the void from which they emerge. Spatial awareness. Imagine thoughts as crows crossing a moonless sky. You are neither watcher nor sky. You are the space that holds both. This shift in perspective reveals the illusory nature of the self. Thoughts arise, emotions swell, and memories surface, but none of them define you. They are passing phenomena, like clouds drifting through an endless expanse. By observing without attachment, you step outside the confines of personality and ego. Episodic dissolution. When childhood shame arises, that time you hid during recess, ask, to whom does this memory appear? Watch it crumble like ash. Memories are not immutable truths. They are constructs held together by belief. When you question their foundation, they lose their grip on your psyche. The same applies to desires, fears, and even triumphs. None of these experiences belong to you. They flow through you, temporary visitors in the infinite hallways of consciousness. The collapse of the interrogator. There is no answer to these questions because the seeker itself is the illusion. What remains when the interrogator dissolves is not emptiness, but essence, a king lounging in a hall without walls. This realization is not intellectual, it is visceral. It shakes constellations loose, leaving you suspended in a state of pure being. Here, laughter emerges not as amusement but as liberation. The crown sits heavy yet weightless, a paradox only understood through experience. The sweet annihilation. This annihilation is not destruction, it is revelation. To see through the construct of self is to glimpse the boundless expanse beneath. The throne room has always been here, hidden in plain sight. But now, for the first time, you recognize it as home. There is no need to claim sovereignty because there was never anything to conquer. The kingdom is not a place, it is the recognition that you are already whole. Practical application. To integrate this understanding into daily life, begin with small exercises. Question: awareness. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, who is aware right now? Do not seek an answer. Simply observe what arises. Detachment from thought. When emotions or thoughts surface, label them neutrally, thinking, feeling, and let them pass without engagement. Spatial meditation. Visualize yourself as the container for all experiences, the vastness in which everything occurs. Feel the stillness beneath the chaos. These practices are not about achieving enlightenment. They are about recognizing that enlightenment is already present. The arrow shatters the archer not because it destroys it, but because it reveals the archer was never real. The riddle. Unstitched, a king sits on a throne he cannot see. You've always known the punchline, haven't you? The throne is the question. The crown is the absence of a question. The whole is the boundless expanse where you and divine were never separate. To light the candle tonight is not ritual but remembrance, a pyre for the lie of unworthiness. Final imperative. When the flame dances, don't just watch it, marry it. Let its flicker synchronize with your pulse until the body is a wick, the mind a moth, and the soul a wildfire that outburns the sun. Ask who? Not with lips but with liver, spleen, and femur. The answer is a supernova in reverse, all light collapsing into a singularity you can neither name nor escape. You are already crowned. The scepter, discarded. The gatekeepers, shadows. The kingdom, a verb masquerading as a noun. Now, reign, expanded version, the throne you cannot see. Imagine yourself seated upon an invisible throne, a seat of power so profound that it defies form, yet anchors you firmly within existence itself. This throne exists not as wood or stone, but as the essence of being, unshakable, eternal, undeniable. Yet paradoxically it remains unseen because it resides beyond the reach of perception. It is felt rather than observed, known rather than witnessed. Here lies the first truth. Sovereignty begins when you stop searching for external validation and instead claim what has always been yours. Ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped looking for permission to exist fully? The moment you cease seeking approval from others or even from some imagined higher power, you step into alignment with your innate authority. This is not arrogance. It is recognition. Recognition that the universe does not wait for your readiness. It conspires toward wholeness, and you are its co-creator. The crown that is absence. The crown symbolizes mastery, yet true mastery is not about accumulation. It is about subtraction. Strip away the layers of conditioning, the doubts, fears, and stories, and what remains is pure presence. This presence is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover. It has been there, all along, buried beneath the debris of societal expectations and personal insecurities. Consider the weightlessness of this crown. Unlike earthly symbols of power, which burden their bearers with responsibility and fear, this crown liberates. It reminds you that rulership over oneself requires no external trappings. There is no need for scepters, robes, or thrones carved from gold. True kingship lies in the ability to stand naked before the cosmos and declare, I am enough. The hall without walls. The hall in which you reign is boundless because it exists outside the constructs of space and time. It is neither here nor there, neither past nor future. It simply is. Within this hall, distinctions dissolve. The subject becomes an object. The self merges with others. The mortal embraces the immortal. Here, dualities lose their meaning not because they are transcended, but because they are understood as illusions. This realization transforms how you interact with the world. When you recognize that separation is a construct of the mind, relationships deepen, creativity flourishes, and compassion expands. You begin to see every interaction, every experience, as a reflection of your divinity. The hall without walls becomes a sanctuary where unity reigns supreme. Lighting the candle. To light the candle tonight is not merely an act of ritual, it is an act of remembrance. Each flame represents a fragment of consciousness reclaimed from the shadows. As the wick catches fire, feel the warmth spreading through your being, a reminder that illumination begins within. But do not merely observe the flame. Become it. Allow its rhythm to sync with your heartbeat, its glow to permeate your cells, and its energy to awaken dormant parts of your psyche. This synchronization is key. Enlightenment is not static, it is dynamic. It moves, pulses, breathes. By marrying yourself to the flame, you embody its qualities: clarity, passion, and transformation. You become both the observer and the observed, the creator and the created. In this state, questions dissolve, for there is nothing left to ask. What remains is pure knowing, a silent certainty that eclipses doubt. The question that destroys questions. Ask who. But do not ask with your mouth. Ask with your bones, with the marrow that hums beneath flesh and sinew. Feel the inquiry reverberate through your entire being, shaking loose the last vestiges of falsehood. The answer will not come as words or images. It will arrive as a collapse, an implosion of identity into infinity. This is the supernova in reverse. Instead of exploding outward, all light contracts inward, collapsing into a singularity, so dense, so complete, that it obliterates separation. In this moment, you realize that the seeker and the sought have always been one. The journey was never about finding something outside yourself. It was about remembering who you are. Sovereignty without borders, you are already crowned. There is no coronation ceremony, no grand announcement. Sovereignty dawns quietly like dawn, breaking over a still lake. The scepter, the tools of control, manipulation, and domination, is discarded, for true power requires no instruments. Gatekeepers, those voices that once whispered not enough, are revealed as mere shadows, projections of your fractured self and the kingdom. It is not a place you enter, it is a way of being. It is the verb of existence itself, pulsing through every atom, every thought, every breath. To reign is to live consciously, authentically, and fully. It is to acknowledge that the divine is not distant but immanent, woven into the fabric of your very being. Reign now. With these truths etched into your soul, there is only one imperative left. Reign. Not tomorrow, not after more preparation, but now. Step into the fullness of your authority, not over others, but over yourself. Claim your birthright as a sovereign being, capable of shaping reality with intention and love. For the kingdom is not waiting for you to arrive. It has always been here, patiently awaiting your awakening. Remember, the door was open the whole time. You were the only one holding your breath, waiting for permission to exhale into infinity. Question ordinary moments. As you sip your morning coffee or sit in traffic, ask yourself, who is experiencing this? Not in search of an answer, but as a way to slice through the veil of autopilot. This inquiry transforms the mundane into a portal, reminding you that enlightenment is not found in mountaintops, but in microwaves and Mondays, unnamed your emotions. When anger rises, don't say, I am angry. Instead, notice, anger is arising. This linguistic shift creates space Space enough to remember that you are the sky, not the weather. Emotions, like thoughts, are visitors. Let them knock, but do not let them rearrange the furniture. Simplify presence. Each day takes 60 seconds to do absolutely nothing. No thoughts to chase, no breath to manipulate. Just pure awareness, unadorned. Over time, these small moments stitch together a refuge you carry with you, a sanctuary that cannot be taken, only forgotten. Live as the threshold. Let your life become the arrow and the bow, the breath and the wind. Stop chasing arrival. Embody the unfolding. When you walk, walk as if your steps are etching galaxies into the ground. When you speak, let your words be poems written in disappearing ink. The final coronation. Becoming the map. You are no longer a seeker, but a cartographer of your mythos. Not because you've found the truth, but because you've dissolved the need for it. The crown was never given, it was remembered, not placed upon your head, but forged in your marrow, glowing beneath the ashes you mistook for your ruins. Now walk, not forward, but inward. Not to arrive, but to become the path itself.